Rome didn't invent Rome. Long before the she-wolf nursed two brothers, a quieter power carved roads, raised temples, and taught the future empire how to read the sky. Then, almost overnight, that mentor vanished. How do you delete an entire civilization so completely that even its language turns to static? Today, we're chasing the ghosts of the Etruscans, the people Rome called Tyrrhenians, and the mystery isn't where they went. Spoiler, their DNA is still in modern Tuscans. But rather, why history chose to muzzle them. Picture the misty hills north of the Tiber at dawn. Beneath vineyards lay buried streets, painted chambers, and voices we still can't decipher. Greek writers swore the Etruscans sailed from Turkey. Roman skeptics called them natives who simply refused to speak Indo-European. 21st century genetics just weighed in, but the verdict only deepens the riddle. How can bloodlines survive while memory dies? Stick around for 3 reveals: origin, erasure, and the stealthy comeback that's unfolding right now. Herodotus spun a famine tale. Lydian settlers, led by Prince Tircinus, crossed the sea and rebirthed themselves in Italy. Dionysius of Halicarnassus laughed that off after comparing Etruscan rituals to anything he knew in Greece. Modern labs finally broke the tie. Genome-wide data from 82 ancient skeletons shows near-perfect continuity between Iron Age Etruscans and today's Central Italians. There's no Anatolian pulse in sight, yet their speech was alien. The alphabet borrowed Greek shapes, but the words belong to no linguistic family we can track. Imagine reading a love letter aloud and not knowing if it's a shopping list or a curse. That strangeness alone made Rome uneasy. You can conquer territory, but how do you rule a grammar nobody else speaks? They didn't just arrive, they engineered a landscape that future Romans would claim as their own. By the time Rome was a muddy fort, Etruscan cities like Veii and Tarquinia already sported underground drainage, stone arches, and grid planning. They measured streets by the compass and aligned temples to star points. Walk into their painted tombs today. The Tomb of the Leopards bursts with banquet scenes, musicians, and dancers mid-twirl. It feels alive, not funerary. Greek visitors were scandalized to see women reclining with men, toasting freely. 4th century writer Theopompus sniffed that Etruscan ladies drink with anyone they please. In a world where respectable Greek wives stayed invisible, that was subversive. Etruscan art never chisels heroic abs or imperial scowls. Terracotta couples smile gently from sarcophagi, fingers forever intertwined. Bronze beasts, like the chimera of Arezzo, freeze in a last spasm of pain, every muscle quivering. Humanity over hubris, emotion over propaganda. Rome loved the hardware, but feared the software. The Tarquin dynasty, Etruscan in blood or adoption, supplied 3 of Rome's 7 kings. Tarquinius Priscus kick-started the Cloaca Maxima sewer and laid the early forum. Servius Tullius organized the census. Tarquin the Proud built the great Capitoline Temple before being exiled in a blaze of scandal. The very symbols of Roman authority were hand-me-downs: the curule chair, the purple-striped toga, and most famously, the fasces, a bundle of rods around an axe first carried by Etruscan lictors. Rome's breakup story is the rape of Lucretia. Tarquin's son violates a noblewoman. She takes her own life. Outraged Romans overthrow monarchy forever. Whether the tale is myth or not, it served as Rome's emotional severance package. The pupils slammed the classroom door, then pretended the teacher never existed. Deleting a mentor starts with gagging their alphabet. Roughly 13,000 inscriptions survive, most heartbreakingly short. Larth, son of Arnth, aged 45. Grave tags, votive pots, and ownership marks. The longest text, the Liber Linteus, endured only because Egyptians recycled it as mummy wrapping. Another prize, the Pyrgi gold tablets, pairs Etruscan lines with Phoenician, gifting scholars a partial Rosetta Stone. We can pronounce clan, puya, sek, son, wife, daughter, but we can't form a single complete sentence of philosophy or myth. AI projects launched in 2024 are crunching the pattern frequency of those fragments, hoping to bootstrap a lexicon, yet success remains distant. Rome understood the stakes. You don't have to burn every book, just stop teaching the code. Within 2 centuries of the Republic, Etruscans slipped from Senate debates to whispered prayers and then to nothing. Silence became policy. When words fade, swords follow. War by attrition replaced cultural borrowing. The 10-year siege of Veii ended in 396 BCE when Roman troops tunneled under the walls and burst into the goddess Uni's temple mid-sacrifice. City after city fell, Tarquinia, Vulci, Cerveteri, each isolated by Rome's divide-and-conquer diplomacy. A last coalition was shattered at Lake Vadimo in 310 BCE. Victory wasn't enough. Rebranding began. Latin law replaced local councils. Roman colonies dotted the farmland. The Via Aurelia sliced across old Etruria like a scar. Literature piled on the insult. Poets coined the sneer obesus Etruscus, the fat Etruscan, turning a sophisticated cuisine into a symbol of decadence. Erase the reputation, then lose the name, but memory has a funny way of resurrecting itself. Millennia later, Renaissance diggers cracked open hillocks near Tarquinia and found rooms glowing with 2,000-year-old pigments. Tuscan nobles became Etruscan curious. Artists borrowed the smiling sarcophagus pose. Emperor Claudius had beaten them to the obsession. He wrote a 20-volume Tyrannica and even compiled an Etruscan Latin dictionary. Both disappeared after his death, a silence inside a silence. By the 18th century, antiquarians morphed into archaeologists. Today, LiDAR and ground-penetrating radar map buried streets, without lifting a trowel. Each scan redraws a city the Romans insisted never mattered. Yet even technology can't decode a tongue. Maybe blood can. Sequencing labs extracted DNA from teeth buried under Cerveteri tumuli. The genomes link Iron Age Etruscans to modern inhabitants of Tuscany and Lazio. Anatolian ancestry is negligible. Herodotus's famine migrants never landed here. Instead, linguists now suspect Etruscan was a linguistic fossil, one of Europe's pre-Indo-European holdouts that simply held on a little longer. So the riddle flips. If Romans and Etruscans shared blood, why the cultural gulf? Rome's answer was to swallow the rival whole. Biology survives assimilation, but stories do not. And yet, sometimes the swallowed voice echoes in unexpected chambers. Walk Vatican Hill, and your steps from an Etruscan necropolis. Bishops carry the crozier, a curved staff eerily like the Etruscan lituus once used to mark sacred sky quadrants. The old Roman religious title, Pontifex Maximus, now a papal honorific, may trace back to priestly mediators who read lightning for Tuscan gods. Layers of faith stack like palimpsests. Scrape one off, another glyph appears. These survivals aren't direct lineages, but symbolic DNA embedded in ritual muscle memory. Rome erased the name, yet kept the posture. Rome's mightiest engineering feat wasn't a road or an aqueduct. It was a 2,000-year delete key that turned mentors into footnotes. In that vacuum, we lost a model of gender parity, an urban planning blueprint tuned to the cosmos, and a theology that treated nature as a text to interpret, not a resource to exploit. History loves a single storyline. The Etruscans remind us that every inevitable empire stands on buried alternatives. Rome didn't invent Rome. It refined a template carved by the very people it chose to forget. Now that science and archaeology have started pulling threads from that erased tapestry, our task is simple: keep tugging. Which silenced civilization should we amplify next? Drop a comment, subscribe, share, and let's turn up the volume on the stories history tried to mute.